government in the world has a secret government behind it that run the show. If you think that the president, the prime minister, you think they're doing it, they're puppets. 100% puppets. They control armies, nations, governments, all the money in the world, all the richest families in the world, Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, and it's a terror organization built by the New World Order. And they approved the declaration of Eretz Israel. All the founders of the country of Israel are Freemasons.
I'm going to go over this kind of quickly. This was actually in a newspaper in 1940, the Southern Jewish Weekly. They're to show Abraham Lincoln with his B'nai B'rith connections. Now, you know this guy, anybody is put up for president, doesn't do it alone. They have a lot of money connections. So this is where they're bragging about B'nai B'rith having a lot of connections to Lincoln. And this is something here what I want to point out too. Because if you're reading this, you probably won't pick up on this if you're not familiar with some other things. When the Republican Party came into being in 1854, there were about 175,000 Jews in the United States. A lot of them actually were down south in Charleston, South Carolina, and New Orleans and Louisiana, because that's where the slaves were coming in and stuff. They were trading the slaves. And even though the international slave trade, I forgot what year it was made illegal, many decades actually before 1860, there was still international slavery going on, with Jews controlling all the international slave trade from Africa to America, which was based in Rhode Island. Now, here they're talking about, so in 1854, there were about 175,000 Jews in the United States, thousands of whom were recent arrivals from Germany, Austria, and Hungary, from where they had fled after the abortive revolutions of 1848. What you're not reading in this, though, the abortive revolutions of 1848 in Europe were communist revolutions that failed. So they came here in the United States. What you're also not reading is that in this article, is that Karl Marx came to New York City in 1850 and brought 2,000 communists with him, which were mostly Jewish. So now they're saying in this article in 1940, hi cat, his feather. So in this article in 1940 in the Jewish, Jewish Weekly, the Southern Jewish Weekly, they're claiming that the Jews that came over had an imbued, deep-seated love of liberty and hatred of slavery. Total bullshit. Let me see if I can get this on here. So again, we went over this a little bit. And I'm going to tell you about my opinion about where the war started. Rabbi Isaac Meyer Weiss, this is one example, but there's a gazillion of them. A champion of liberal Reform Judaism and the most active and renowned rabbi in the United States in the 19th century, actively supported the enslavement of blacks, called Abraham Lincoln an imbecile, and argued that blacks were beasts of burden. I'll argue that the reason the Jews supported Abraham Lincoln was solely for their own financial reasons. There's a lot of things that have been set up that are traps. I think the organization called the Ku Klux Klan that came about in 1915, that was also a setup. It wouldn't even have come about in anywhere, shape, or form, in anywhere near the numbers if MGM, Jewish Hollywood Studios, did not produce and push that movie called Birth of a Nation. I actually put part of it up on someplace else, and I just called it the KKK, the good guys rescuing a damsel. I just showed the end of the movie. Basically, that kind of was set the psyche, like we're here to protect the womanhood and the nation and stuff and whatever. Now, that's another thing, because this second time this organization came about, this is probably another setup. It was designed to create tensions between blacks and whites, and they're doing it. You know, that's what they do every day. They do this, you know, in the media all the time. And if you really want to get into why was Lincoln assassinated, I think it was because he didn't go with the final step. He was issuing greenbacks. The United States government was issuing its own money, and he was not borrowing money from Rothschild-connected banks. That's why I think they really got rid of him. And I think Judah P. Benjamin also had something to do with that. And this is interesting too, because Judah P. Benjamin was also a top B'nai B'rith leader in the South. Judah P. Benjamin was the Secretary of War, the Secretary of State, and I think he held another high position in the Confederacy. He was like the number 2 guy in the Confederacy, and probably the number 1 guy as far as actually pulling, you know, telling policy, what policy was going to be. So, but the thing is, Judah P. Benjamin, you can't say he was a guy that wasn't loyal to the Jewish, you know, goals or whatever, if you want to put it that way, or the Jewish tenets or Jewish political goals, because he wasn't just in the B'nai B'rith, he was a leader. So if you got all these leaders up north that are backing Lincoln, it's almost like, I think the whole war was basically set up, because you look at the story, Uncle Tom's Cabin, that was a fiction story, but it really inflamed everybody in the north on one way, and everybody in the south in another way.
I would have came down.
Did you tell them about the basketball?
Yeah, we have basketball.
Don't be angry
We have sunflower seeds as well.
if that's at all of an interest to you.